This is why people fail to achieve the goals. Imagine this. You're caught in the chaos of life, constantly chasing after goals, dreaming of success. But somehow, despite your best efforts, things don't seem to fall into place. What if the answer to achieving your dreams isn't about pushing harder, but doing less? What if the true key to transformation lies not in endless striving, but in embracing imperfection and taking small, steady steps toward change? Welcome to Buddhism and Life. In today's video, we'll explore powerful life-changing insights that will shift the way you think about success, failure, and personal growth. This is not just another video filled with generic advice. It's packed with ancient wisdom, real-world examples, and teachings that have stood the test of time. You'll discover why so many of us fail to achieve our goals and how Buddhism offers a way forward through simplicity, mindfulness, and patience. In our fast-paced, achievement-driven world, society often bombards us with the message that the key to success is simply doing more work, more hustle, more goals. We're told that if we just push harder, we'll get what we want. But what if the opposite is true? What if, in our quest to accomplish more, we are missing out on the essence of real success? The wisdom of Buddhism teaches us that true achievement doesn't come from doing more. It comes from doing less, but with greater focus, intention, and mindfulness. In the hustle and bustle of daily life, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the never-ending list of tasks, emails, meetings, and responsibilities. We often find ourselves scrambling to check off items on our to-do lists, only to realize that, in the process, we have lost sight of our deeper purpose. How many times have you found yourself exhausted by a day's work, only to feel as though you've accomplished nothing of true value? It's a common experience in today's world where busy is mistaken for productive and quantity is often valued over quality. Buddhism offers a radical shift in perspective. It teaches us that success is not measured by how much we do, but by how effectively we focus our energy on the things that truly matter. The teachings of the Buddha remind us that we don't need to chase after endless achievements to find fulfillment. What we need is to clear away the distractions and focus on what truly nourishes our mind, body, and spirit. This principle is beautifully captured in the practice of mindfulness, which is at the heart of Buddhist philosophy. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in each moment, paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and actions without judgment. By cultivating mindfulness, we learn to let go of the clutter that fills our lives, whether it's physical clutter, mental clutter, or emotional clutter, and focus on what is most important. In the ancient teachings, the Buddha spoke of the importance of simplicity and non-attachment. He encouraged his followers to let go of the unnecessary and to concentrate their efforts on what would lead to inner peace and liberation. One of the most profound stories from Buddhist scriptures tells of a wise monk who lived simply, with only a handful of possessions. When asked why he didn't accumulate more, the monk replied, "The more you accumulate, the more you are weighed down. The true freedom comes from shedding what is unnecessary." This story illustrates the core of Buddhist wisdom. The more we accumulate, whether it's possessions, achievements, or even thoughts and desires, the more we become burdened. In our attempt to achieve more, we often lose sight of the things that truly bring us peace and joy. By simplifying our lives, we create space for the things that truly matter, such as love, compassion, and spiritual growth. In our modern society, where success is often measured by external achievements, this teaching may seem counterintuitive. But consider this: how much of your time and energy is spent on tasks that, in the grand scheme of things, don't bring you true happiness? Are you so caught up in the race to do more that you neglect the relationships, passions, and practices that nourish your soul? Buddhism teaches us that happiness and fulfillment are not found in the accumulation of material things or in constant busyness. They are found in simplicity, in focusing on the present moment, and in letting go of the excess. A beautiful example of this teaching can be found in the life of the famous Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh. He often spoke about the importance of doing less, but doing it more mindfully. He taught that when we slow down and give our full attention to whatever we are doing, whether it's eating, walking, or washing dishes, we begin to experience life in a deeper, more meaningful way. The simple act of washing dishes, when done with full presence and attention, can become a meditation, a way of cultivating mindfulness and finding peace in the midst of everyday activities. One of the key practices in Buddhism that helps us achieve this focus is meditation. Meditation teaches us to quiet the mind, to let go of the distractions that constantly pull us in different directions, and to become more aware of the present moment. It is through meditation that we learn to distinguish between what is truly important and what is merely a distraction. As we cultivate mindfulness, we begin to see clearly, and we are able to direct our energy toward the things that truly serve our well-being and the well-being of others. The story of the Buddha's own enlightenment offers a profound lesson in this regard. Before he attained enlightenment, the Buddha was a prince, living in luxury and constantly seeking more wealth, more pleasure, more knowledge. But he eventually realized that his search for external satisfaction would never bring him true peace. In his moment of enlightenment, under the Bodhi tree, the Buddha discovered the path of simplicity, of renunciation of unnecessary desires, and of focusing inward rather than outward. His realization was simple yet profound. True happiness comes from letting go of attachment and focusing on what truly matters. In Buddhism, we are reminded that we are not defined by what we accumulate or achieve, but by how we live, how we treat others, and how we cultivate peace and compassion in our hearts. As the Buddha said, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. If we focus our minds on what truly matters, we will naturally live lives that reflect our deepest values and aspirations. So the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the pressure to do more in order to achieve more, remember this: the true path to success is not in doing more, but in doing less, with greater awareness and intention. Prioritize the things that bring you true peace and joy, and let go of the rest. In doing so, you will find that not only will you achieve your goals, but you will do so in a way that brings fulfillment and happiness, not just to you, but to those around you as well. By simplifying your life, focusing your energy, and practicing mindfulness, you will discover that true success is not about the quantity of your achievements, but the quality of your experience. In the words of the Buddha, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. This is where true freedom, peace, and happiness lie. And there is also another problem, that we have a lot of expectations. However, expectations can be a powerful force in our lives, shaping our actions, decisions, and emotional well-being. We all have dreams, desires, and goals that we wish to achieve. It's natural to aspire for more, to want to reach higher peaks and achieve greatness. However, one of the fundamental teachings of Buddhism offers us a crucial insight about expectations. They can be a double-edged sword. If we allow our expectations to grow unchecked, they can create a vast chasm between what we hope for and the reality we experience. This gap can lead to suffering, disappointment, and a sense of discouragement. In the Buddha's teachings, there is a concept known as the middle way, a path of balance that avoids extremes. This principle applies not only to our actions, but to our expectations as well. If we set our expectations too high, we place an immense burden on ourselves. We set ourselves up for inevitable disappointment when things don't go as planned. On the other hand, if we set our expectations too low, we might avoid the risk of disappointment, but we also miss the opportunity for growth and achievement. The true path to peace and success lies somewhere in the middle, where we can still have goals, but we understand that these goals are not fixed in stone and that they may evolve with time. The Buddha himself taught that desire and attachment are sources of suffering. But it's important to note that not all desires are harmful. The key is to cultivate desires that are grounded in wisdom and compassion, rather than in unrealistic expectations. When our desires are rooted in attachment to outcomes, when we crave success or perfection with such intensity, we bind ourselves to the very thing that causes us pain. It's the attachment to the idea of success that brings the suffering, not the success itself. A wonderful story from the Buddhist tradition illustrates this point. The tale is of a young monk who, eager to achieve enlightenment, set his sights on a lofty goal: to reach nirvana in a matter of months. He meditated day and night, pushing himself harder than ever, but instead of achieving the peace he sought, He became exhausted and frustrated. His expectations were too high. One day, an older monk saw the young monk struggling and asked him why he was so tense and worn out. The young monk explained his goal, and the elder gently said, "Do not rush your journey, for enlightenment is not a destination, but a path. It is the steps you take with mindfulness, not the speed at which you take them, that will lead you to peace." The young monk took this wisdom to heart and began to meditate with more patience and humility. He stopped expecting quick results and began to focus on the present moment, understanding that each step, no matter how small, was an important part of the path. Slowly but surely, he found the inner peace he had been striving for. This story reminds us that expectations based on the idea of fast results or immediate success often lead to frustration. It is through steady, mindful effort that true progress is made. In my own life, I've had my share of lofty expectations. When I first began sharing Buddhist teachings publicly, I imagined that every lecture would be perfect. I imagined standing ovations, deep resonance in every listener's heart, and flawless delivery. But those expectations, though they seemed noble, were also unrealistic. I quickly learned that the more I focused on the outcome, on how I wanted things to go, the more I became anxious and stressed. It wasn't until an elder monk of mine shared a simple yet profound piece of advice that I began to understand the true nature of expectations. He said, "When you step onto that stage, do not expect to be perfect, but also do not step forward with doubt. Simply do your best." This advice shifted my perspective entirely. It helped me realize that my worth as a speaker and as a person was not dependent on external validation or the perfection of my performance. Rather, it was about my intention, my effort, and my dedication to sharing the teachings with sincerity. It was the inner peace I cultivated in the process that mattered most, not the applause. In Buddhism, there is a deep understanding that both success and failure are part of the same cycle. Success is not guaranteed, and failure is not permanent. If we can accept both with equanimity, then we free ourselves from the suffering that comes from attachment to one outcome or another. Just as a leaf may fall from a tree and return to the earth, both success and failure are part of the natural rhythm of life. This understanding leads to the wisdom of having moderate expectations. This doesn't mean we should abandon our dreams or stop striving for greatness. Quite the opposite. It means we should approach our dreams with a sense of balance. By having expectations that are grounded in reality, we empower ourselves to work diligently toward our goals while also remaining open to the lessons that failure may bring. One of the most powerful qualities that the Buddha taught us to cultivate is sati, mindfulness. Mindfulness allows us to stay present, to focus on the task at hand, without being consumed by the outcome. When we practice mindfulness, we train ourselves to let go of the need to control everything. We learn to accept that life unfolds in its own way, at its own pace. We can still pursue our goals, but with the understanding that our happiness does not depend on the success or failure of any particular outcome. A story from the Buddhist tradition beautifully encapsulates this idea. There was once a farmer who planted a seed in his field. He tended to it with care, but every day he grew anxious, wondering why it hadn't sprouted yet. He checked the soil, watered it constantly, and prayed for the seed to grow. But despite his efforts, the seed remained dormant. Finally, an elder advised him, "You must trust that nature will take its course. The seed will grow when the time is right, but if you focus only on the outcome, you will miss the beauty of the process." This story teaches us that growth, whether in our personal lives or in our endeavors, cannot be rushed. Our expectations must be tempered with patience, understanding, and trust in the process. Just as the farmer must wait for the seed to grow in its own time, we too must trust that our efforts will bear fruit when the conditions are right, and we must be at peace with that timing. So the lesson here is clear. Moderate your expectations. Aim high, but not so high that you set yourself up for disappointment. Strive for excellence, but don't tie your self-worth to the outcome. Embrace the process and trust that each step along the way is an important part of the journey. Failure is not the end. It is simply a part of the path that teaches us humility, resilience, and wisdom. In Buddhist philosophy, one of the most profound and transformative insights is that change doesn't come all at once. We live in a world that constantly promotes rapid results, quick fixes, and instant gratification. But Buddhism teaches us a timeless truth. True, lasting transformation is built upon the foundation of small, steady changes. The wisdom here is simple, yet deeply powerful. Change isn't a grand event, but a gradual unfolding, much like the way a seed slowly grows into a tree. This teaching is beautifully illustrated in the story of the Buddha's own enlightenment. Before he attained the profound wisdom beneath the Bodhi tree, the Buddha spent years meditating, reflecting, and learning from each experience. His transformation didn't happen overnight. It was the result of persistent, patient practice, step by step, moment by moment. In fact, one of the key teachings that the Buddha shared is that every great change begins with a single, small shift. It's about taking small actions that accumulate over time, leading to profound results. Many people come to me asking, how can I make a big change in my life? How can I transform everything right now? And while the desire for change is understandable, the truth is that trying to force everything to shift at once only leads to frustration and overwhelm. Think of it like trying to climb a mountain all at once without first preparing yourself. You will only tire yourself out. The path to meaningful change is not through leaping, but through careful, mindful steps forward. This is the essence of Buddhist practice. The emphasis is on progress, not perfection. Take a moment to consider the example of a goldsmith working with a raw piece of gold. The goldsmith doesn't try to shape the entire block of gold in one go. Rather, they work meticulously, polishing bit by bit. Each stroke, though small, is necessary to reveal the beauty of the gold beneath. In the same way, each small, mindful step we take toward improvement is part of the larger journey of personal transformation. Buddhism teaches us that life is not about rushing toward the end goal, but about embracing the small, subtle moments of growth that accumulate over time. A simple example from daily life can illustrate the power of small changes. Let's say you're feeling stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed by the demands of life. The instinct might be to try to tackle everything at once, solve all your problems, fix everything that's wrong, and completely overhaul your life. But this approach, while well-intentioned, often leads to burnout and frustration. Instead, the Buddhist approach is to start small. Begin with something simple, like cleaning your living space. It may seem like a small, insignificant task, but when you clear clutter from your surroundings, you create room for clarity and peace. By tidying up your space, you are also tidying up your mind. This small, seemingly mundane action can be a catalyst for deeper change. It shifts your focus from chaos to calm, and in that moment, you begin to create a foundation for greater mental and emotional well-being. In the words of the Buddha, a wise person, realizing the fleeting nature of life, spends every moment in perfect mindfulness. This quote reminds us that change doesn't need to be grand. Rather, it is the consistent, mindful effort in small doses that leads to real transformation. A peaceful mind doesn't come from dramatic, one-time actions. It arises from daily mindfulness, from paying attention to each moment, and from making small adjustments along the way. This idea of gradual change is reinforced by a story from Buddhist tradition. Once, a young monk came to his master, frustrated by his lack of progress in meditation. "Master," the young monk said, "I have been meditating for so long, yet I feel no closer to enlightenment." The master, understanding the frustration, smiled and responded, "The mountain is moved one stone at a time. Do not measure your progress by the distance you have yet to go, but by the small stones you have already removed from your path." This story beautifully captures the Buddhist perspective. It's not about how far you've come, but about the mindful steps you take along the way. Think of your life like a garden. If you plant a seed today, you cannot expect it to bloom immediately. Growth takes time. But if you care for that seed day by day, watering it, ensuring it gets the right amount of sunlight, and protecting it from harm, soon enough, you will see the fruits of your labor. Transformation in your life follows the same pattern. When you focus on small, consistent actions, the results will follow naturally. Start by making small adjustments. Perhaps it's a 5-minute meditation every morning, or taking a few moments each day to reflect on what you're grateful for. Maybe it's choosing to take a deep breath before reacting to stress, or pausing to listen more deeply to those around you. These small changes may seem insignificant, but over time, they compound to create profound shifts in your mindset and your life. Buddhism teaches us that change is inevitable, but it doesn't have to be a struggle. Just like the flow of a river carves a canyon over centuries, small changes, repeated with intention, shape the course of our lives. If we resist the urge to chase after grand, immediate transformations and instead focus on the power of small, incremental steps, we allow ourselves to grow naturally and steadily. Each small action contributes to the larger transformation, and each mindful moment lays the foundation for a more peaceful and fulfilling life. So, the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by the idea of making drastic changes, remember that the path to growth is not through rushing or forcing change, but through taking one small step at a time. It's not the big leaps, but the steady progress that leads to lasting transformation. Each moment of mindfulness, each small improvement, leads you closer to the person you are meant to be. We understand that perfection is an illusion. Life, with all its complexities and contradictions, is inherently imperfect, and so are we. This realization is not a cause for despair. Rather, it is a source of liberation. When we acknowledge that perfection is unattainable, we free ourselves from the suffocating pressure to be flawless. We release the unrealistic burden of trying to measure up to an ideal that simply doesn't exist. Instead of striving for a distant, unattainable goal, we can shift our focus toward the present moment and take small, meaningful steps toward growth and self-improvement. The Buddha, in his quest for enlightenment, did not achieve instantaneous awakening. It was not a dramatic event that occurred in the blink of an eye. Rather, it was the result of years of meditation, self-reflection, and gradual refinement of the mind. The Buddha's path to enlightenment was not a straight line. It was filled with setbacks, moments of doubt, and periods of uncertainty. Yet, through perseverance and a deep commitment to the practice, he was able to transcend the limitations of the self and experience the peace of awakening. This teaches us a crucial lesson. Transformation is not instantaneous. It is a process, a journey that unfolds over time, step by step. What then should we focus on? The answer lies in embracing imperfection and taking small steps toward change. Each day, we have the opportunity to learn something new, to apply it in our lives, and to improve just a little bit. It's not about making sweeping changes overnight. Rather, it's about making gradual, consistent progress. In Buddhism, we speak of the importance of right effort, the effort to cultivate wholesome qualities, to let go of unwholesome tendencies, and to gradually refine our mind and behavior. This right effort is not about force or striving for an unattainable ideal. It is about persistent, gentle effort toward progress. Consider the example of a sculptor shaping a block of stone. At first, the stone is rough and unrefined. But with each gentle tap of the chisel, the sculptor removes a bit more of the excess, revealing the beauty hidden within. It is not one powerful strike that creates the masterpiece. It is the accumulation of many small, deliberate actions. This is the essence of personal growth. Each small step, each small improvement, contributes to the larger transformation. One of the most beautiful teachings in Buddhism is the concept of anatta, the teaching of non-self. This means that we are not fixed, rigid beings, but rather we are constantly changing, evolving, and growing. Our identity is not set in stone. It is fluid and dynamic. When we accept this truth, we realize that we are not bound by past mistakes, by old patterns, or by the idea of who we think we should be. Instead, we can embrace the process of becoming, knowing that every small step we take toward improvement is part of the unfolding of our true nature. I often reflect on a story from the life of a monk who sought enlightenment. He was known for his rigorous meditation practice, yet despite his efforts, he felt as though he was making little progress. Frustrated, he went to his teacher and said, "Master, I have meditated for years, but I still feel lost. I still feel that I am far from awakening." The teacher smiled gently and said, "You are like a potter shaping clay. The clay does not become a vessel in one moment. It takes time, patience, and many careful hands. But with each turn of the wheel, the clay is slowly transformed." The monk, hearing these words, realized that his frustration stemmed from his desire for immediate results. He understood that true transformation takes time, and that each moment of practice, no matter how small, was an essential part of the process. This story highlights an important lesson. We must be patient with ourselves. Change doesn't happen in one dramatic event. It happens over time, through consistent effort and gentle perseverance. When we embrace our imperfections, we stop measuring our worth against impossible standards. We free ourselves from the cycle of self-judgment and allow ourselves to take small, mindful steps toward change. One of the most effective ways to embrace imperfection and take small steps toward change is through mindfulness. By practicing mindfulness, we begin to see ourselves clearly, without judgment or expectation. We observe our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors with kindness and compassion, knowing that we are not perfect, but that we are continuously evolving. Through mindfulness, we learn to let go of the need to control every aspect of our lives, and instead, we focus on what we can do in this moment. We let go of the idea that we must be perfect, and instead, we focus on being present. This mindfulness practice is exemplified in the teachings of the great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, who often spoke about the importance of being here now. In his teachings, he encourages us to embrace each moment as it comes, without the pressure to be anyone other than ourselves. Whether we are washing dishes, walking, or sitting in meditation, each moment is an opportunity for growth. We don't need to strive for perfection. We need only to be fully present and to make small, conscious choices that align with our values. Each small step toward improvement, no matter how insignificant it may seem, is a victory in itself. And when we look back over time, we see that these small steps have created profound changes in our lives. It's like a river that carves a canyon over centuries. The river doesn't rush to create the canyon. It patiently wears away at the rock, one drop at a time, until it has shaped the land. In this same way, we must approach our lives with patience and persistence. We must accept our imperfections and see them as opportunities for growth. We don't need to be perfect, we only need to be present, to take small, mindful steps each day, and to trust that these steps will lead us to transformation. Remember, the journey is not about achieving perfection. It's about embracing imperfection and allowing ourselves to grow and change in the process. Every small step you take is a step toward a more compassionate, wise, and awakened life. So, take those small steps with love and patience, knowing that they will lead you to a place of greater peace, clarity, and fulfillment. As we've seen, the journey to true change isn't about doing more or aiming for perfection. It's about embracing small steps, learning from our imperfections, and letting go of unrealistic expectations. Buddhism teaches us that transformation is a process, a journey that unfolds not in a single moment, but over time. So, what's the next step for you? How will you apply these teachings to your own life? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and share your journey with us. If you found value in today's video, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe for more insightful content on how to live a balanced, fulfilling life through Buddhist wisdom. Remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but with each small step, we can create a life filled with peace, purpose, and understanding. Thanks for watching Buddhism in Life, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay mindful, stay present.